Oh, look at it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar today on Satisfactory Academic Progress, presented by the Office of Student Financial Assistance and Employment. Your hosts for today are myself, Sarah Kaufman, Assistant Director of Undergraduate Financial Aid, and Roosevelt DeLaveau Jr., the Associate Director of Graduate and Professional Financial Aid. This is our team in the Office of Student Financial Assistance and Employment from a recent retreat we had. Some of these faces may look familiar to you. So the agenda for today: what is satisfactory academic progress? Who is evaluated for SAP? When do we evaluate SAP? And what are the consequences of failing SAP? Lastly, is there an appeals process if you fail? And what is satisfactory academic progress? It is a federal regulation that a university or college is required to establish and publish and apply towards standards to determine whether a student is maintaining satisfactory academic progress. This is a process by which the university monitors your progress towards completing your degree program for federal financial aid, state aid, and merit scholarships. So what this means is that we are required to monitor your progress, make sure you have the correct courses, the cumulative GPA is meeting a certain standard, your credits completed versus attempted are a certain percentage, and that you don't exceed the maximum time frame for completing that program. The only students exempt from this are those who are non-degree seeking. So who is evaluated for SAP? Any student that is receiving federal aid through the FAFSA, state aid, or merit scholarships must be meeting satisfactory academic progress. Now, what do we evaluate to determine SAP? First, we look at your cumulative GPA. That is your GPA either at the end of a semester or at the end of the spring semester when the academic year has finished. The cumulative credit hours earned, so the total numbers that you earn for a semester or year, not the number attempted, and the maximum time frame in which it takes for you to complete your program. SAP for graduate and professional students. The GPA requirement for graduate students is that you must maintain a cumulative GPA of 3.0. Law school students have a sliding scale, where the first-year students are required to have a 1.9 GPA, not your second, third, and fourth year, 2.0 is the requirement. LLM students, the first and second year GPA requirement is different. The cumulative GPA required is a 2.3, and the same applies when you're doing a dual program with a law degree, that 1.9 for the first year and 2.0 subsequently, similar to just your typical JD program. The credit completion ratio requirement for graduate and professional students is also known as the pace of progression. All courses that with a grade of F, I, IP, NG, W, and repeated courses are not considered toward the calculation for credit hours earned. Those go towards credit hours attempted. So what that means is if you complete 66 credits during your program, but have attempted 88, you take that 66 that you've earned, divide it by that 88, and that's your completion ratio. We are focusing on what you've earned because those are the grades in which you have earned, where you've earned a grade for them, you didn't withdraw or receive an incomplete or fail for that completion ratio. The graduate professional area requires that you have a completion ratio of 67% across the board. That is the standard for any program as a graduate student. Maximum time frame. This is only for federal financial aid. Students cannot exceed 150% of the time allowed to complete their program here. So what that means is it typically takes a student 36 credit hours to complete a graduate degree. 150% of that is 54 credits. Students cannot exceed 54 cumulative credits attempted or they will lose their eligibility. SAP for undergraduate students is a little different. We have a couple different things we're evaluating for GPA. Federal financial aid, which is your Pell, your loans, your work study, that is a 2.0 cumulative GPA. We're looking for you to have not a 1.97, but a 2.0. There is no rounding when it comes to the GPA components or credit completion. So if it is that 1.99, you're close, but unfortunately we need that 2.0. Merit scholarships, we're looking for a cumulative GPA of 3.0. So this is your Canes Achievement, your President's Award, your Trustee Scholarship, Gable Scholarship. Any of those, by the end of spring term, you need to have a 3.0. State aid, couple different components. First, Bright Futures. Bright Futures has two tiers. First being the Florida Academic Scholars. You need to have a 3.0 cumulative GPA at the end of spring term. For the Florida Medallion Scholars, the next tier down, you must have a 2.75 GPA. And your Florida Resident Access Grant and your Florida Student Assistance Grant mimic the federal requirements with a 2.0. Now, the credit completion ratio for undergraduate students is similar to that of graduate for federal purposes. It's also known as pace of progression. W's, I's, audits, and F's are only considered attempted hours, not your earned hours, because you did not earn a grade for them. The 67% completion ratio is the same. It's a federal requirement. So we look at what you've attempted and completed, and that completion ratio has to be the 67%. It can't be under it to be rounded up. So we're looking at the hours completed divided by the attempted to get that ratio. Merit scholarships do not look at a completion ratio. We're looking for the number of hours earned in the academic year. So for merit scholarships, you must have 24 credit hours at the end of the spring term. You have to take at least 12 or more to be paid out the merit scholarships for it to be applied to your account here at UM. But if you take 12, end up dropping down to 9, you'll need to make up that 3 credit deficit in the spring. So that way you will make that 24 credit hours at the end of spring to maintain the renewal criteria for this component. Transfer credits can be counted towards your credits earned, but not towards your GPA. So say over the summer you go home and you take courses at your local college or university. You bring those courses back with you. Unfortunately, it's not going to boost the GPA for the GPA component, but it can help you with your credit completion portion. So if you bring back 9 and you were missing 6, this would then help you for that renewal criteria. Florida Aid is not looking at a percentage either. It's similar to the merit scholarship with the 24 credit hours for each academic year. The difference here is that you cannot make up lost credit hours in a subsequent term. So if you take 12 in the fall, only complete 9, you can't take the 15 to make it up for Florida Aid. You would then not make your 24 credit hours, unfortunately. And we'll talk about the appeals process and how that would take place later. But for Florida Aid and merit scholarships, we're looking for those 24 credit hours. Federal aid, we're looking for a cumulative percentage. And the maximum time frame is for your federal aid only. Same thing of the 150% allowed like the graduate students, except typically it takes 120 credits for an undergraduate degree to be completed. So what that means is when you get to 180 credits, that's when the Department of Ed is telling us we need to reevaluate your progression and where you are in your program. You will be notified that you've lost eligibility once you hit the 180 credits or more. We do notify students at 150 credit hours that you are at risk of reaching maximum time frame. So we do give you a heads up and let you know, hey, you're nearing this 150% time frame rule. Please be advised you may be running out of funding within the next year. And then once you reach this 150% time frame rule, we do let you know you've failed to maintain satisfactory academic progress. Now, when do we evaluate SAP? For graduate professional students, it's at the end of each semester. We look at the overall progress. Once grades from the previous term are posted, all academic coursework is used to determine the student's eligibility. Any grade changes that take place during the semester will be used for the evaluation. You do have to let us know. Sometimes we don't always run it continuously, so if you've failed, then a grade is made up or changed, please contact our office and let us know. We can go ahead and reevaluate that to see if it changes your status. Not every department notifies us. It's always good to be proactive and keep in contact with us so that we can best serve you in this area. Undergraduate students, for federal aid, which is your Pell, your loans, your work study, we're evaluating at the end of each semester. So that means at the end of fall, at the end of spring, at the end of summer, we're looking at what your GPA, your credit completion, and your time frame. Students are allowed a warning period after their first failure. So what this means is, say you come to UM, you take your first semester here in the fall, but your GPA is a 1.7. We're going to then tell you, hey, you failed to meet the standards of academic progress in regards to your GPA. You now have a warning period for the spring semester. You are still eligible for your financial aid. However, if you do not meet the criteria thereafter, you will be ineligible for your federal aid. So you get a warning period, and that's the time to really knock it out of the park, get those grades up, make up any incompletes that you may have from the previous semester to get that GPA within range, or make up those credits if it was a credit completion issue. Merit scholarships we look at the end of each spring semester. So we're looking for those 24 completed credit hours, that 3.0 GPA, to maintain renewal for the next year. If at the end of fall you have not completed at least 12, you do not have a 3.0, we do let you know you're at risk of failing Merit SAP. You'll be notified at the end of fall saying, hey, just be advised you are at risk of losing this scholarship. Please make sure that you either make up the credits that were lost from the fall semester or bump up that GPA to have the cumulative 3.0. State aid is at the end of the spring semester as well. So this is your Bright Futures, your FSAG, your FRAG. There is no warning or probationary period for this. So it's up to you as the student to know where you are in your progress here at the university. What is your GPA? Have you completed 12 credits each semester to make that 24? Always be on top of and cognizant of what's going on in your academic performance, so that at the end of spring it's not a surprise if we send you a notification letting you know you failed in one area. Now, what are the consequences of failing satisfactory academic progress? It may result in a cancellation or non-renewal of your aid that's been awarded to you. Like we said with federal aid, you'll get a warning the first time. We'll tell you, hey, heads up, this is what's going on, you need to improve. Or if it's at the end of spring and you've not met that criteria, we would then cancel out future aid for the next academic year. Students who fail to meet satisfactory academic progress will be notified in writing by email. We send them out as an electronic communication to all students. It'll be in your message center. I know a lot of students don't use their Canelink account. It is in your best interest, and we strongly recommend you use it, because not only are you notified via Canelink, but by also your email of satisfactory academic progress. So it's always important to know how to log into Canelink and where to find these things. Students placed on academic probation will be eligible for aid during that probation period only. So if you are on academic probation, it doesn't put you out of the game, but you need to step it up and improve your grades and whatnot. Students can submit an appeal for review by a committee. There is an appeals process depending on when we evaluate your aid, and we'll talk about that in the next grouping. So can I appeal my failed status? Yes, you can. The SAP appeal is available online. This is the link to it. It is available on our website. It's also available in the SAP notification that you receive via email from our office. The SAP process is completely electronic, so there's no need to bring anything into our office. It is done online. You log in with your Canelink credentials, and it is an electronic form. You put in all of your information. You tell us what you're appealing for. Is it for federal aid? Is it for your merit scholarship? Is it for your state aid? Is it all of the above? Are you an undergraduate student or a graduate student law? All of these things are right there on the form. You must submit a letter of explanation for why you did not meet this criteria. For example, if there was an illness or death in the family, we need supporting documentation from either the hospital, a doctor, obituary, something of that to support what happened in that letter of explanation. That form online for the appeal does allow up to 5 attachments, so you can get all of that documentation in one appeal. Typically, it works for all of our students. And keep in mind that the circumstances that occur in your letter must take place within that semester or academic year that you failed to meet these criteria. If it was, say, you failed for fall, but it's something that happened a year ago, unfortunately it's not going to be applicable. It has to be recent and within that time frame in which you're appealing. Also, if there is several semesters in a row of poor performance, you need to address all of those semesters. If you've withdrawn from one course every semester since you've been here and then all of them in the spring, you can't just address what happened in spring. We need to know what led up to this, if there was a series of events that caused the poor performance. All appeals should be submitted no later than 30 days from when you're notified. So if we notify you typically at the end of April, say April 29th, of the SAP failure. You have 30 days from that notification to submit an appeal. If it is received after 30 days, it will be denied automatically. Keep in mind that if something happened in that 30 days that kept you from appealing, which also may be stemming from why you failed, you need to supply the documentation so that we know why you couldn't meet that deadline. All decisions by the committee are final. So if the appeal is denied and the denial explanation tells you it's because of poor performance over a series of semesters and there would be no way to bring up this GPA even with a certain academic plan, unfortunately the committee, these decisions are final. That are sent through, you're welcome to come to our office and discuss these decisions with us. We'd be happy to explain in greater detail. And students are only eligible to receive one approved appeal during their enrollment at University of Miami. So say you appeal in the first year that you're here. If now 2 years later you're in your junior year and the same instance happens or it's stemming from that same appeal, unfortunately we can't entertain a new appeal because it is still the same extenuating circumstances. Federal regulations don't allow us to continue an appeal off of that. However, know that if it is something new and a new extenuating circumstance outside of what has already taken place in the past, we welcome the conversation for you to come in and have that with us to discuss if a subsequent appeal would be beneficial to you. Also, something with the appeals that's not listed here, aside from approval or denial, in the undergraduate process, we allow for what's called an academic plan, and so does graduate, where we will look at your performance, determine if maybe an appeal right off the bat is not going to be most helpful to you because the next term you're not going to meet GPA or completion ratio. So we set up a plan for you where we have a term GPA and completion rate and follow you along with the goal in mind of after a year you putting yourself back into good academic standing. So sometimes you may file an appeal and receive a response from us that says you're approved but with certain conditions. For example, for undergraduate, we may say you need to have a term GPA of 2.5 for your federal aid and complete all of your courses successfully in order to move forward. Merit scholarships, we may say 3.0 in all credits. So it all depends on your situation and what we see in your academic history for the approval or denial or an academic plan. And this is our contact information. We have office hours on a walk-in basis. You're free to come in and see an advisor that is on duty anytime between the hours of 9 and 5 on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesdays between 10:30 and 5. Phone calls we welcome between 9 and 5 on Monday and Friday. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday we have an extra hour till 6 to speak with you. And this is our physical location if you want to come in and speak with us in person. And then we'll be open to any questions at this time. Thank you very much for joining us today.